So we all hear about the AI revolution, right? It promises this amazing new future. But for some folks, it doesn't show up with a flash of innovation. Instead, it comes with a super mysterious offer and a big demand for silence. Today, we're going to dig into the hidden land grab that's fueling this AI boom and the quiet communities getting caught right in the middle of it. So let's head to Mason County, Kentucky, and meet Tim and Andy Groger. For more than 30 years, this father-son duo has cared for their land. You know, their sanctuary, a place of peace and quiet. But that quiet, it was about to get completely shattered.
I want you to just imagine this for a second. Someone walks up and offers you $8 million for your 250-acre farm. I mean, get this, that's 35 times what the Grogers paid for it way back in 1988. That is lottery-winning, life-changing money, an offer that sounds almost impossible to say no to, right?
Okay, but here's the thing. This is where the story gets weird. This incredible once-in-a-lifetime offer didn't come with any clear plans or blueprints. Nope. It came with a huge, mysterious catch.
So what was this big mystery? Well, it all came down to a demand for total, absolute secrecy. Before the company would even begin to answer any questions about what they wanted to do with the land, the Grogers had to promise not to talk to anyone about it. Yeah, this was not your standard real estate deal. This felt like something else entirely.
And the legal tool at the heart of all this secrecy? It's the non-disclosure agreement. You know, the NDA. Now, you've probably heard of these, right? They're super common in business to protect trade secrets and sensitive info. But here, it was being used in a totally different and kind of strange way.
The company basically laid it on the line for them. Sign this non-disclosure agreement and we'll start answering questions. So think about that. It wasn't really about protecting a finished plan. It was a tool to stop the Grogers from even finding out what the plan was in the first place. The NDA was a wall. Sign it and maybe get some answers. Refuse, and you stay completely in the dark. The Grogers refused to sign.
And it turns out, the Grogers experience, it wasn't some one-off thing. Experts are saying, nope, this isn't just a quirky negotiation tactic. It's a full-on corporate strategy, a playbook that's being used all over the country.
So what's the goal here? Well, the experts call it greasing the skids. It's pretty clever in a way. You get landowners and local officials to sign these NDAs, locking them into silence. Then you can quietly snap up huge pieces of land for these massive billion-dollar projects like data centers, all before the public has a clue what's happening. It's a strategy designed to completely bypass any community debate that might slow things down.
And you can imagine, this strategy of silence created a huge rift right there in Mason County. So you've got one side, the county officials, who've signed these NDAs. They're hoping for this massive investment from a top 5 tech company. And then you've got the residents. They just feel completely handcuffed, you know, like this done deal is happening right under their noses and they have zero say in it.
So this wasn't just about frustrating a couple of landowners. No, this secrecy cast this shadow of doubt and mistrust over the entire community. And listen to this quote from a pretty tense public zoning meeting. It just perfectly captures how people were feeling. With residents trying to piece things together from Facebook rumors, they felt completely powerless. That secrecy, that became the biggest red flag of all. I mean, if the project is so great, why all the hiding? So when residents finally got their chance to speak up, wow, all these fears just came pouring out. They were worried about literally everything. The chaos from construction, air and water pollution, serious issues with water pressure, a massive strain on their local power grid, and all of it for a project they still didn't officially know anything about.
Okay, so it's super important to zoom out for a second here, because what's happening in Mason County, this isn't just some local story in Kentucky. It's one little piece of a massive, nationwide drama, and it's all being fueled by the absolute explosion of AI.
See, the thing about AI is that it's hungry. It has this insatiable appetite for power and data, and it needs a ton of physical space to operate. We're talking about hundreds of new data centers. These are enormous, power-guzzling buildings that were announced just in the last year alone. It's an absolutely epic construction boom.
And that whole strategy of silence we saw back in Kentucky, guess what? It is absolutely being copied elsewhere. In fact, one investigation uncovered more than 20 different cases where these exact kinds of secretive NDAs were used between data center developers and local governments.
And we're not just talking about one part of the country either. This is happening in at least 16 different states, all the way from coast to coast. It's basically become the national playbook for grabbing land quickly and, more importantly, quietly.
So what about the big companies behind all this? Well, when the 6 biggest tech companies, the ones really driving this boom, were asked about their use of NDAs in these land deals, they just put up a total wall of silence. They either declined to comment or just didn't respond at all.
And all of this brings us right back to where we started. Back to those rolling hills of Kentucky. Back to the groggers and the really personal choice they were forced to make when this huge, secretive machine came knocking on their door.
You have to understand, the pressure on them was just immense. Think about it. Out of the 20 landowners they approached right there in that area, 18 of them said yes. They signed the papers, they took the deal, they sold their land. The groggers, they were one of the last 2 families holding out. But Andy Groger's answer? It was just crystal clear, unshakable. For him, it wasn't about trying to negotiate a higher price. It was simpler than that. The land itself was just not for sale.
And this quote right here, this really gets to the very heart of their decision. Looking out at the land they've taken care of for decades, the whole idea of trading that away for some mystery project from some mystery company, it just made no sense. You know, they basically decided that some things just don't have a price tag.
And so, all of this leaves us with a really big question. Look, the AI boom is moving at lightning speed, and these data centers are the engines that make it all run. But when these huge corporations use secrecy to grease the skids and push development through, who really ends up paying the price? What's the real cost to communities, to just basic transparency, and to people like the Grogers, who value their quiet little piece of the world more than any amount of money?